Sometimes when I select a title for my lesson, I try to find a little bit of wit. So today, I love my title, We, all the way home. I just love it. It brings to mind those little commercials with the little rat goes going down the hill, wee, or is it a little pig? I think it's the little pig, wee, all the way home. Yeah, I'm spelling we a little bit different. But anyway, my lesson is about realizing that everything is a we thing. As we focus on relationships, there is never a moment when we're not in relationship. Oneness is a basic truth. We means everyone and everything, and every moment is a we moment. But do we understand that? Do we embrace that? Do we live life that way? You know, I want to start the lesson with a passage from the Science of Mind textbook, kind of anchor in this lesson. So I want to see if you can kind of take this in fully. So if you're comfortable, I want you to just close your eyes and listen. Listen to the words of Ernest Holmes. He says, I am never alone, never lonely, for I have as companions and friends those people who are drawn to me by the ever active and immutable law of attraction. It is not enough that I profess to love people. I must really love people more dearly than I have ever loved before, because all people are my family. I do not outline who shall be my friends and companions, for there is no desire to coerce, compel, or suggest anyone. I trust implicitly the law of attraction to bring into my environment and atmosphere friends and loved ones and establish for me a community of interest and helpfulness. As I love and cooperate with my fellow humans, so do they love me and give me their cooperation. The law is motivated to work for me by my love for people. So you can open your eyes. But I want to repeat that final sentence. As I love and cooperate with my fellow humans, so do they love me and give me their cooperation. The law is motivated to work for me by my love for people. So this basically says that the universe around us is a responsive universe, and it is compelled by my love. The more you love the world around you, the more the world around you works on your behalf. Wow. Right? Your power to create a life that you desire is your ability to love and be loved. I've been reading Robert Holden's book, Lovability. I hope all of you are. And I'm going to share a few things from that book today. It's one of our books of the month. And I'm probably going to touch on it next week, too. It's really that good. And he agrees with Holmes about the creative power of love. And he says it this way: love is the essential growth ingredient of your life. And the next quote, he explains it further. The more you love, the more you grow. The more you love, the healthier you are. The more you love, the happier you feel. The more you love, the more successful you are. I think that one hits on all our major desires, right? We want to grow, we want health, happiness, success. And the gateway to all of that is love. Yes. We all want our world to work for us, right? And support us in the things that we wish to experience. And the secret, it seems, to realize that in the truth of oneness, what I want for myself, I'm wanting for everyone else. And when I love the universe that I experience, the universe loves me back and becomes a lovelier place for everyone. It is the we and we all the way home. So I want to dive into the word love this morning. And I first want to look at it from a science of mind perspective, because I want you to understand what it means when I say that you are love. When we say the word love, it can mean a lot of things. And And love is another word that we use for God or spirit. So we say God is love, right? You've heard that before. God is love. So when I say that you are love, I'm saying you are made up of love. So I want to look at it through quantum physics. Okay, so it is the science of mind. So there's a little science in all of this. So at the smallest level, scientists have shown us that every molecule is made up of atoms, and every atom is made up of these little bitty bits of energy that they call quanta, right? The quanta of energy makes up everything. Science calls these little bits energy. We call it consciousness. I call it God stuff because it is responsive and it is creative and it is all one thing. The universe, life, everything in it is made up of little bitty bits of consciousness or love or God stuff. Okay, so oneness isn't just a sweet idea, it's a scientific fact. Okay? So you're made up of God stuff, my made up of God stuff, and your God stuff is interacting with my God stuff and everybody else's everywhere. The energy of life, what I call spirit. And therefore, you're made up of it, and I'm made up of it. If we call spirit love, then guess what? You are made of love. Did you follow all that? Because I can't do it again. But this is your true essence, your true identity. Love. Part of the one, connected to the all, an energy being emitting an energy field that interacts with the universe around you. It is with your thoughts and your emotions and your choices that you are either living in balance as your love self and love and order with everything all around you, or you're blocking yourself from the flow of energy around you. You're either loving or blocking love. And basically, as human beings, we're taught to block love and replace it with the opposite, which is fear. Okay? Robert Holden's book, Lovability, and Marianne Williamson's book, Return to Love, two of my favorite books so far. And they're both about the same thing. This journey of life is about remembering that our true essence is love. And that when we identify with our true self, we are happy and our lives work. But when we live from this illusion, this human thing that we are separate and we've got to protect ourselves from everyone else, we suffer and we're in pain. And basically, Ernest Holmes says the same thing. See, when we're young and we're going through our formative life experiences, we interpret what happens around us. And we begin to fear that we are unlovable. Can I get an amen? Right? Things happen to us, and we begin to think, I must not be lovable. And we twist ourselves into versions of ourselves that we think are more lovable and acceptable than we know ourselves to be, don't we? We do that. You know, there's this common fear that if you really knew me, you would not love me. If I showed you all of me, you would not love me. Can anybody relate to that, right? Okay, so some of us figure out that everyone seems to love us more when we get good grades. So we become obsessed with being perfect and getting it all right, right? Some of us believe that if our body looks a certain way, we get more approval. So we develop grooming and exercise and other habits that just work on the body constantly. Because if I can get my body to look better, I'm going to be more lovable. Some of us learn that if we help others, we are more loved. Some of us seek out other people who seem to be more lovable so we can kind of latch onto them as a shield. Like, look, this person loves me, so I'm loved too. I'm lovable. Some of us learn that we are only loved when we are happy. So we put on a happy face. We kind of grin and bear it. That was my house growing up. Be happy, Laine, or go to your room till you can get happy and then you can come back. That was basically the truth. Some of us learn that when we're sad or ill, we get more affection and love. So we live a life of brokenness, basically, to attract more love. And almost all of us learn to hide our truest selves to protect ourselves. So those kinds of defense mechanisms follow us into all the relationships of our lives, our friendships, our work relationships, intimate relationships, even those with our adult families. We are all in these masking things. And at some point, we look around our lives at all these fragmented and disappointing relationships and structures, and we decide to stop numbing the pain long enough to start the healing process, or what Robert Holden and Marianne Williamson call the remembering process, the remembering that we are loved. Marianne Williamson says, love is what we were born with. Fear is what we learned here. You know, when you look at a baby, they're their original face. They're their original selves. They haven't put on a mask yet. So we love babies, right? Because they haven't learned fear yet. And here in this community, we're in the process of dismantling all the pretty walls we've built around ourselves that hide our true identity, which is love. I don't want to see your mask. I want to see your love, right? The Sufi mystic poet Rumi said this, "Oh, my friend, all that you see of me is just a shell. The rest belongs to love." The truth is that most of the time we're just bumping along in life shell to shell. You know, my attempts at being more lovable or interacting with your attempts to be more lovable. It's kind of life is a living shell, right? It's a shell game. So how do we return to love? How do we shed our shell and be our most authentic self? We have to turn within and remember who we are. All love comes from the one heart of God, centering ourselves in the heart of God, within the kingdom of heaven that Derek just sang about, within the love of God, and identifying ourselves as being connected to that at all times. That is the beginning. That is the first step. It all begins with love of self. But to get there, you got to let go. Love of self. You got to let go of all the judgment, criticism, unworthiness, resentment, cynicism, fear, all of that stuff of yourself. The Course in Miracles says, you are the work of God, and his work is wholly lovable and wholly loving. This is how man must think of himself in his heart, because that is what he is. So if you're going to step into knowing how to love and how to be loved, you must make a conscious decision to be a loving presence in your own life. When you look in the mirror and when you look out at the world around you, you see love. You have to be willing to live your love out loud, so to speak, showing the world that you love and value yourself and love and value every single other person on the planet. And loving yourself, y'all, loving yourself is the biggest thing you can do to improve your life and the lives of every person you touch. Improve your life, improve your love of self, and make a difference in the world, right? Robert Holden said it this way: the quality of your relationship with yourself determines the quality of your relationship with everything else. And that makes sense to me. You know why? Because when I know that the source of love is inside me, not out there somewhere, I'm not looking to anyone or anything else to fill in the gap of my own self-love. You know, I'm not busy trying to find someone to prove to me that I'm lovable. I'm not searching for a group of people to kind of put their stamp of approval on me. I'm also not judging everyone else around me to make sure that I feel better about myself because someone else is worse off than I am. I'm not striving for perfection and stepping on others in the process when I know that love's in here. It's not out there. When I love myself and know that the source of my love is God, and that the way to be loved is to send out more love into the world, knowing that it will come back to me tenfold, I see others as my equal, and I can let their love in too. I understand that if I give and receive love in the flow of life, then I'm trusting in love and how lovable I am, and everyone else around me feels that. Holden's book, actually, it describes self-love as knowing who you are, your God self, not the trained ego of your human mind. That's not who you are. Self-love is knowing that you're made of love. That's who you really are. You can kind of relax and remember that love is your original energy. Self-love is how your soul feels about you. Take that one in for a second. Self-love is how your soul feels about you. Your personality looks for love. Your soul is love. And self-love is promising to not forget who you really are no matter what the circumstances are. You know, in the workshop after the service, we're going to be doing a self-discovery process about relationships, actually, but especially primary relationships. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the purpose of primary relationships. But the lesson here, I want to just talk about relationships in general, the we, all the way home, the we. So how do you know if you're truly loving people? We kind of think we're loving people. You know, we're good people. I know you. You know, you love people. But when a relationship is based in love, no one is acting. No one's acting or trying to be on their best behavior, kind of seeking approval. Instead, both parties are accepting and co-creating a safe space to be authentic. Intimacy actually occurs because both people are actually being honest and allowing themselves to be seen and open to accepting their differences and celebrating their similarities. In other words, no one needs to change to be loved. Are your relationships loving? Another way to look at it and know if it's a loving relationship is to realize that all the giving and taking with each other doesn't deplete anything. There's a flow between the two people. Sharing just makes everything just kind of grow. And a loving relationship, love's not for sale. And no one is ever in debt in a loving relationship. Another Sufi mystic Hafiz wrote, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. There's no depletion when you give. And a truly loving relationship is between two equals, because true spiritual love recognizes everyone as equal. You know, there are no hard and fast roles to play in a loving relationship. You can negotiate what the agreements are, but power struggles are not an issue because both people are taking responsibility for their own happiness. He goes on to say that there's no possession in a real loving relationship. Because when you love someone, you want other people to love them too. You want them to experience that love. And he says that we can only love one person as much as we are willing to love everyone. Think about that. He says when you love someone, you want everyone else to love them too. You're happy for them to experience the joy of loving and being loved by everyone. So a loving relationship isn't selfish. Are your relationships loving? Those are some interesting measuring sticks. So I want to circle back to the passage, that we read at the beginning, because it speaks to the truth that relationships that are attracted to me are the right ones for me to be learning from, healing in, and growing through. And sometimes that's hard to believe, isn't it? Because some relationships are so challenging. But there's a serendipitous quality of the connection, and that sometimes it's just unmistakable that it's divine in nature. Think about the curious circumstances that brought you to meet some of the primary people in your life. Think about what all had to line up for your path to cross. There's some giggling going on because it happens, doesn't it? Right? We can recognize that all the stars had to align for us to meet that person or that person. And when we know that it's about that for certain people, could it possibly be true that all the stars aligned for us to meet everyone we meet? I want to tell you a story about synchronicity that can affirm that you're supposed to meet the people you're supposed to meet. So one day a man was on a plane reading a scripture in his Bible that brought his mind to the subject of adoption. And spontaneously, he looked at his wife and said, I think we need to open our hearts to adoption. And to his surprise, she's like, I was just thinking about adoption too. But she hadn't mentioned it yet. And they were so moved and surprised by this conversation that the man wrote in the margin next to the scripture the date, February 14th, 2011, Valentine's Day. and a single word, adoption. So when they got back home, they began this paperwork process. It took a few years to get their first referral from the adoption agency. And he looked at the picture of the young child and he just had a cloud of doubt. He felt this strong kind of inner no, which led them to decline this possible child. And they declined 3 more. He just didn't feel right about any of them. But on the 5th referral, he and his wife looked at the photo and both of them felt this surge of joy, and they decided to adopt this particular girl. And when they flew to China to get her, they finally met her and they received this set of paperwork from the orphanages about her circumstances. The paperwork kind of gave all of her identifying details, including her birth date. And it would take a while, but one day they realized she was born on February 14th, 2011, the very date he wrote in his Bible. This was supposed to be their child. And on the day she was born, they both got a spiritual message to go find her. And this story illustrates the truth that every relationship in your life is designed perfectly for you. There are no coincidences as to who your parents are, who you marry, the friends you meet, the coworker that sits in the place next to you. They're in your life for your benefit, to teach you something about love, to show you an aspect of your ability to love yourself or your lack of ability to love yourself, to develop an aspect of your truer self, to work on healing a wound, something. They're there for something. The lesson is to honor every person that crosses your path. They've shown up for you, even someone you consider a stranger or an acquaintance. They've shown up for you, even if the relationship is very, very challenging, or one that you must exit to love yourself. That's an important component too. What you send out in the world, you get back. You know, for years and years and years, we've been sending out a lot of mixed stuff. You know, I look at it as a web of life. We're all connected to each other in some way. And what we send out on the web comes back to us. And for a lot of us, we've had years and years and years of sending out mixed messages. Sometimes we're sending out resentment and fear and judgment and criticism and all of that. And sometimes we're sending out love and blessings and cooperation and affection. We're sending out all of it. But what would happen if we became determined to only send out onto the web of life that which we want back? It pays to live a very loving existence, not only with the people closest to you, but with every single person you encounter in the world. We're all part of the same creation, this shared human consciousness, this universal heart. Einstein says when we free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature. And Einstein was a pretty smart guy. He's basically also saying love is all there is. So today I'm inviting you to make a conscious decision to be truly loving, a loving presence in your life and everyone else's. I invite you to live your love by setting the firm intention to be a loving presence in the world. Tom Carpenter, he's this great teacher of Course in Miracles. He says this: the decision to be the presence of love is the most powerful influence you can have in any situation in your life and in this world. The decision to be the presence of love. And I believe that this decision is lived in every moment, moment after moment. All of these relationships are those that follow you back home, back into yourself. It truly is we, all the way home. It truly is. And if you truly live and believe the truth of oneness, your home will show that to you as well. I want to close with a poem by John Rodell. I've shared his work before. He says, "What you give to the world is who you are. We are not here to hoard the light. We are here to reflect it. Our souls don't have pockets. Everything we fought to gather will one day slip through our unclenched, translucent hands. Nobody will remember how safe we were with our gifts and heart. They will remember how recklessly we gave of ourselves. We aren't here to turn our lives into a bank vault. We are here to be a gateless park. Oh, my love, I wasted so many years before I learned that. We are not what we take from this world. We are defined by what we give back to it. John Rodell. So give love, receive love, be love, all the way home. And so it is.